Welcome to Big Blend Radio's first Friday Toast to the Arts and Parks show with the National Parks Arts Foundation, who are known for their amazing artist residencies in parks across the country. Everybody, welcome back to Big Blend Radio's Toast to the Arts and Parks show. Today we're excited to catch up with Rachel Marie Kimber. She was on our show last month talking about her music and getting excited about going to Saguaro National Park, where she's the National Parks Arts Foundation Artist in Residence for September. She is back home in Tempe, Arizona, and going to give us a little overview of her experience. And we're going to close this episode with a song she recorded, a live improvisation. Just pretty amazing, too, how she does this. So I'm excited about that. And all of you watching on YouTube, you're going to be able to see how she does it and plays her cello. And welcome back, Rachel. How are you doing?
Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you for having me back on your show.
Did you enjoy Saguaro National Park?
Pardon?
Did you enjoy Saguaro National Park?
I loved it. I loved my stay there. It was amazing to have. It was such a blessing to have that time with no other distractions, just to focus on being creative. That's just such a huge blessing to be able to do that.
Oh, wow. So like just to have, yeah, that space, that whole month. And that's what you were looking forward to. So in that month, did you do anything that you thought in your mind, this is my goal of being in a residency, or did things change according to where you were and you're like, oh, the landscape's different, the animals are like, I'm in, you're in a new environment, even though you're in Arizona, but have that freedom. And sometimes people come back learning new techniques. So what was the highlight for you?
Yes, I recall you saying that often through the residencies things change. And I found that I set the intention just to allow and immerse and then create. And that is the flow that happened. It surprised me how quickly it happened. I settled into the house, and I think literally within a day, I had this three-part harmony in my head from looking at a magazine of the loop cycle path that goes around Tucson. For those of you that don't know, a dry riverbed running through it, and it has an extensive network of cycle paths, so you can bike everywhere, which is great. And it got me thinking about how the river's intelligence has put it underground, because it's so hot in Arizona, and obviously for other reasons. But I was watching the wildlife, and all the birds seem to be still following that route, like it's in their ancestral knowledge. They use that dry riverbed to navigate. And so this three-part harmony, which originally in my head was choral, I ended up grounding the notes and finding what the key was by playing some guitar notes, and I ended up recording those. And then I grabbed my cello, and it just all felt very flow intuitive. And I honestly felt like I was in some kind of trance, because I could hear this whole soundscape. And so I just allowed myself to indulge and explore it. And I ended up writing this, I guess, around 5-minute piece, which I've named Birds Follow Dry Riverbed. And I'm very pleased to say that I finished it by like a couple of days before the residency ended. So I do have a finished piece, and I explored a lot on my cello with playing with the bow, finding sounds that sound like birds. And I also added some vocal, like little bits and bobs. And then, oh, this is a beautiful story which I'd love to share with you. When I arrived in the house, there were 3 crickets I could hear.
Oh, that's right, the crickets. I remember you telling me about this before the interview. Like, yeah.
Yes. So there were 3 crickets strategically placed in different parts of the house. And so I followed my ears, because crickets can be very loud and they can keep you awake. So I followed there was a cupboard with a hot water tank, and it was stuck in there. And so I opened it and saw, oh, hello, cricket. Do you want to come out? And he kind of looked at me and he didn't know whether I was friend or foe, and hopped a bit, and I grabbed it, and then I held it in my hand, and I went to the back door and opened the back door and put it outside. There you go. And I said, tell your friends. And I closed the door. And the next night I could hear them. And I could hear it from outside and inside. And I'm like, oh, I feel Taylor's friends. And then the following day I came out into the living room, and one of the crickets that I feel had been stuck in the kitchen, because I'd opened quite a few doors, he came up to me. And I was like, wow, it's actually come up to me. And it was almost like saying, can you let me out? So I picked it up and I put that one out. And then the same thing happened with the third one. Towards the end of my stay, after I'd been to the mountain, I'd been to Sabina Canyon, and found this wonderful group of crickets in a bush, and recorded them with my memo on my phone. And then I come back to the house and I was like, oh, I'm going to put crickets in my
Yeah.
So I put the crickets in my recording, and I don't know whether the cricket heard it through the speakers when I was mixing, but I came out into the lounge and this cricket is just sat there right in the center of the pathway. There's the third cricket. So then I put that cricket out. But the most beautiful thing about this story that is still like blowing my mind is that everything that I did to create that soundtrack was completely guided, was completely intuitive, including the rhythm and the way I set up. I have a delay pedal, so it kind of things, but when things get repeated, they're repeated in this beautiful, consistent manner, and it fades out. So when I put the cricket sound in the track, the crickets were in time with the track.
It's amazing. That's amazing.
Isn't that incredible?
I call it the heartbeat. I mean, people won't think insects have heartbeats, obviously they do because they're living beings, but it just proves the universal language of music. Because whenever we talk about that, we always go to humans. Well, where do you think music is inspired from? Nature.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So
That last time I was saying about how Mozart took all his music from all the birds and stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. Isn't that it's so you had quite a nature experience then?
Oh, yeah, but I mean, timing wise, I could have set that dial to anywhere on the spectrum, so it could have been faster, or it could
right.
And it was like dead on.
That's wild. You've got a cricket spirit guide, or maybe you were a cricket in your past life. I don't know.
Well, crickets, I think they're so sweet and cute. I mean, they're very noisy. They're probably like too painful on my ears to have close, but they have sweet personalities and they're very happy and always bouncing around.
That's wild. I don't think anyone's talked about cricket music on these podcasts, but I love it. I love it because, some people wouldn't be aware to it, and I think there's also the part of these residencies where you do have that month and it allows an artist to breathe, where sometimes, being able to create, you're doing it in a squeezed amount of time, which there's interruptions, right? And everyone has that in life. But as an artist in residence, it kind of allows you to be more open, do you think, to what's around you, and more observant because you have that space to do it in time.
Absolutely. And I've always really enjoyed interactions with the natural world, including plants as well. And I know people think you're batty if you talk to your plants. Or,
I don't.
So, recently showing a lady talking to her plants at volume. She was like almost shouting at them, but in an excited voice. And the plant was moving, like really responding. And so I went outside and started doing kind of high-pitched, loud baby talk to the one flower that had bloomed. And I felt like I didn't see it move that much, but I felt I could see the vibrancy increase, color, and the greens started to force. And
Now, have you heard of, okay, I'm gonna send everyone, I'm gonna link this in the episode notes too. Number one, the first interview that we did with Rachel. Number two, there are two artists in residence. Zoe did, she is an amazing journalist and author and writes books about plants. And she debunked everything that I believed in, which I'm still bummed about, but she's a scientist. And she wrote about, which one of my favorite books in the world is The Secret Life of Plants. And they talked about doing an experiment where they just took 3 leaves off a plant and meditated on them, and they stayed alive without food and water for over a month. Because they meditated and communicated like with this plant. So anyway, she's got all kinds of answers that I couldn't do, but it's an amazing thing to connect with what you're talking about for others to hear. And she was an artist in residence in Hawaii, and so is Sam Nestor. And Sam Nestor is a musician who has done these things where he connects his sound to plants, and the plants move according to light, so you can see what they're doing according to the music. It's a whole thing. And so now this is so cool. So I believe the plants here, I do, because it's all vibrations, and nature understands vibration. That's their security and safety, you know. You were talking earlier about birds going along the dry riverbeds, like especially Saguaro National Park. We used to hike down the riverbeds. Number one, it's cooler, so the animals know that. And there's so much habitat and places for animals to live in different topography, like in a different landscape. So in the very bottom, you may get your roadrunners, but up in the cliffs, you may get swallows, and quail go into the bushes. So did you kind of experience that while going, down those wonderful riverbeds that do have water during the monsoon season? If
Yeah,
everyone gets happy about that. We love monsoon season.
yeah, that's out. Thanks for asking that question, because I've written a list of animals that I experienced in my stay. And this is kind of in the order I experienced them. Rabbit, bats, lizard, hummingbird, butterfly, and there was a really big black and blue one. It's very beautiful. Kestrel, or maybe a harrier, not sure.
Kestrel's small. Kestrel's really small. They're small. Could be a peregrine too.
Really? What's native
Middle.
area? Do you know?
The harrier, you will get kestrels out there for sure.
So maybe it was kestrel.
See, you're talking about animals, and now here you've got
about birds.
Oh, no, so that here comes the kitten. You're talking about birds and lizards, of course.
Heron, grey heron, and there was a little yellow bird, and I figured that.
Oh, a vermilion, not a vermilion flag. It's a how can I figure? It's got a little red spot on it, right? Or you could have seen a warbler, depending on the time of year. But it is I know it. It begins with a V, and for the life of me, it is out of my mind of what it is. But it's they got a little red spot if it's male. Beautiful little bird. Little, is it little?
Like kind of that big, the body.
Yeah. It's going to be that, or it could be a vireo, but I think I know it's not a vireo. If it's bright yellow.
It wasn't like parrot yellow, but it was yellow.
Okay. It could be warbler, and then, oh man, it's going to bug me all night. I'm going to wake up at 2 a.m. and send you I'll Google it. I'll Google it.
Cactus wren, I saw those.
Oh, aren't they cute? Because that is very that's a very native plant.
Yeah, so lots of wrens. Moth, I saw a beautiful brown gold cream moth. More bats. Owl.
Oh, owl. You saw an owl? Yeah, it's that time of year.
And I saw it disappear. Yeah.
It's a verdin. The bird is a verdin. I Googled it. I had to.
Oh, thank you.
It's a verdin.
Yeah, and crickets. Red quail. So that was my list of all the wonderful things. I had a great time with the bats as well, under the Relito Bridge, which apparently,
oh yeah,
it's like a famous point where they gather. And I stumbled across it by accident on one of my bike rides on the bike path. The bike path runs under the bridge. And I just happened to be going through at the time where the bats were coming out. And I was like, wow.
Ooh, that's cool.
And so then I returned the following day with my cello and played under the bridge to the bats. And then
Did you really? That is so cool.
And then I came back the next day with my guitar, played the guitar, and then the third day I sang to them. And it really was very special. I just listened to their language and I realized that they have like 3 different ways of communicating, or sounds that they produce. One of them is that the sonar, which tells them where they are. And then the other one is like a more of a it's more which is them talking to each other, like and then there's like the scratchy sound of their little claws on the walls as they're going up.
That's so cool. I love that you were playing to him because you know, the music thing, it's interesting to me because I think animals do connect to music, and you can tell. You know, like you've got your cat right there, and there's going to be certain songs your cat likes and certain sounds I know that animals do. And when it comes to bats in Lake Havasu in Arizona, we went on a gondola ride under the Havasu Bridge, which is, you know, a replica of the London Bridge. And the guy who does the paddling on the gondola sang opera in German and Japanese and Italian. And we went under the bridge, and I don't know which language he was on at that time, but we were sitting there, we had the giggles completely, right? Because I'm sorry, it's funny because, you know, we're in Arizona under the London Bridge and he's singing German and Japanese opera. This is funny to us. And then all of a sudden, all these bats came out as we went under the bridge while he was singing. And we're like, this is the coolest thing ever, isn't it? I mean, it's pretty cool to see. I know Austin, Texas has a bridge out there that's famous for bats as well, which is cool. There's a lot. I mean, it's really neat that you're really focused in on the natural world and connected that way. So, did that open up any creative outlets for you other than, I know you've done this song, but in for the future, do you think your experiences have changed a little bit for you and added more creative pathways?
Definitely, it has added more flavor elements.
Mm-hmm.
That's a new one for me. But also another note with my experience with the bats, when I listened in, the frequency that they tend to be around with what they're communicating with the sonar is basically an octave higher than the highest harmonic I can find on the highest string of my cello. And I was talking to a gentleman who was passing under the bridge. He'd stopped because he saw my cello, and we ended up having a very long conversation. And he said, "Oh, but I can't hear them." He said, "Oh, you can hear them?" And I'm like, "Oh God, yes." And he was like, "What?" And he said, "I can't hear them." I said, "I'm sure you can. You just haven't like focused your hearing to it." And I said, "I'll point it out to you so you can hear it." And then I was showing him where the sound was coming from, and I described to him what it was like. Like it's like an electricity pop, something. And then he heard it, and he was like, "Oh, I can hear it." So,
and now he's always going to hear it now. Once you've tuned into it, you know how to tune in. That's super cool.
yeah,
That is super cool. Oh my gosh.
Many things about my stay that have enriched my life that I'm moving forward. I think the biggest thing is that the lesson of me as an artist and musician really needing to honor my gifts and give myself permission to not get distracted and to solely dedicate specific chunks of time to songwriting, to creating, and to putting out content for people to enjoy, regardless what's going on with the craziness of the world. Because I think it's to get stress and anxiety from our situations, and we ruminate on that, and instead of looking at that time of rumination as time we could be doing something to transmute it or transform it into something that's healing and powerful.
Oh, I like that. That's really true about a lot of things in life, right? And when, we each are doing something that's giving into the world. The arts is, yeah, right up there at the top, right? And doctors obviously and things like that, healers. But when you think about the arts and the power of the arts and how it, when something is created, it's never ending in giving.
Yeah.
One song goes forever, forever.
Beautiful. So I've been considering in my also downtime and musing that I haven't actually released any music publicly for a time, and that I think is due to my perfectionism and the recordings that I've done. I've had some challenge with them in some way, but there is a song that I did with a wonderful producer, Guillermo Pascal, and it's called Sewing, which is the Celtic word for Halloween.
Mm.
Name that defines the change of season, and it's like the harvest. And that song has actually got a similar mystical quality to the song that I wrote in the house.
Mm.
I'm deeply considering releasing that as a single on Halloween, but I'm also considering how I can get the track I've made in the residency mastered and ready to release that as well, because I feel
Awesome.
it's a nice gift to give back to the public.
Yeah, no, that's lovely.
Like a finished product, because it is very different from like me kind of improvising on a cello over the finished product is like a whole journey in itself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I'm really pleased with it, honestly. So I'm really grateful that I've had that opportunity.
That's awesome. So, do you think you'd apply again for another residency?
I would, yes, I think I would. Yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
really was a special experience. I'm extremely grateful to the president of
Oh, Tanya is awesome.
grateful. I really have high respect
I
for
think your cat also.
the work that it's in to to enable this to happen for artists, to honor artists. It's such a beautiful thing that she's creating, and to hear that there's other residencies. Ooh. So yes, I will look into it. And
I'm I, I'm loving this. I think it would be so cool to see you in Hawaii, or even like Chaco would be really fascinating to have you in Chaco too. I wonder if you'll get up in northern New Mexico, if you would get some of the ancient, indigenous vibrations. I'm going to
oh,
put it in that terminology, like feelings, and I wonder what would happen. And there's so many ravens out there. Oh my gosh, crows and ravens. It's gorgeous.
yeah.
It's gorgeous.
I love talking to ravens. They're
Oh,
quite, I'm not going to produce it fully with my voice right now, but if I do a raven sound in a forest, it foxes them because it's quite accurate, and they're like, where's that come from? And then they start circling, like, oh, it might be her, and they try and figure it out, and then I can hear them like 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2. They're like talk, and I kind of play with them, so they're really fun to play with.
they're smart, man. They are intelligent beings, incredibly intelligent. I mean, it's and to watch them and how they just operate and they do play. It's like they remind me of like whales of the birds. Like if there were, because whales and dolphins are incredibly smart. It's like I was been listening to how orcas, because as they come back, they're an endangered species and now they're starting to come back with all the protections. And so scientists and marine biologists are really being able to watch them, and they're dolphin, but they really play and they're real social animals or beings. And they want to play with boats, and there's teenagers, and the mom travels with other moms and their kids, and so they're really social, smart little fisher women, fisher dolphins. They go fishing together and they play games. They invent games
Ah,
that they play, which I find amazing.
they
So
are. Yeah. So the ravens are the.
like they're like that to me. When I look at what's going on with how orcas are, and then the ravens are, that's they know how to be like that too. When we used to go up to Burnsville, up in the Pisgah National Forest in North Carolina, which is sadly, really, it's hard to even talk about right now with the devastation out there from Hurricane Helene. But this one place that we'd stay, every afternoon around 4:30, 5 o'clock, we were like, oh, here it starts. And they start ka 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 and carrying on. And you just sit back and and they will go for a full on hour or something. And I don't know if they were nesting, but it was the raven hours, what we called it. And they would come in, and I mean, they were all in the treetops, and they were just this was their roosting time. I think they were getting into roosting mode, and it was amazing.
I recall that. That actually brought back a memory for me for when I lived in the Rocky Mountains in
Mm.
Canada, BC. In our back garden or yard, or however you want to say it, it backed onto a golf course, and there were lots of pine trees. And they would come and make a racket, and it was at a regular time, kind of.
Hmm.
Mm.
It's like, if you're not late, you're late for supper.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to always hang out with them and have that moment. So just, and then all of a sudden they'd be quiet.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
somebody else would start. So the birds are really fascinating. We just got to Florida, and there were no birds where we are, and we're in a natural area. There's a pond with an alligator that hangs out. There's a few more alligators, got herons and egrets and everything. But when we got here, we didn't hear many birds, and we're like, well, that's weird. Well, a hurricane was coming. The hurricane passes. We get through it. Luckily for our area where we are, we were fine. Not so much for the other side of Florida in the Big Bend, but the birds came back bit by bit by bit by bit, like every day. And now it's like full-fledged bird sanctuary. So it's like they knew 2 days before the hurricane that it was coming. Two
Mm.
days before they got out. Isn't that amazing?
Yes, that
Wildlife.
it shows that we need to be more in tune with nature.
Mm-hmm.
If nature is giving us the heads up,
Mm-hmm.
then disasters could be avoided in terms of like loss of life. I think if everyone
Exactly.
with it and everyone's hey, listen, hey, look, let's go. It's that.
And they're societal a
Yeah.
lot of times. Unless you're a leopard, then you're solo, that
Mhm.
they're pretty solo animals. But it's fascinating to me. And I'm glad that you had that moment in time to really observe and connect. That's a beautiful thing. So it sounds like a good residency. This is excellent.
It's great. I brought a lot of stuff with me between all the instruments and recording equipment and food and mountain bike, but it was totally worth it. It really was. It was a great stay. I'm just very grateful. Yeah, and the house I
Awesome.
stayed in was very lovely. I think you can find it on Airbnb if anyone's interested in staying in Tucson. I'd highly recommend it. Please shout and I'll give you the details.
Awesome. Awesome. Everyone, RachelMarieKimber.com is the website. She's also on Instagram. Are you on Facebook, or is it just Instagram and YouTube?
Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I have a personal live channel, and I also have the regular topic channel.
Okay.
I throw shorts of live clips of stuff I've created or stuff in the moment or whatever.
Cool.
So yeah, there's an extensive lot of stuff on my live channel if people are interested to hear.
Awesome.
You want to get up to.
Well, please keep us posted as you record your singles and get them out there. Please do keep us posted.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Take care.